What's going on, guys? It's your boy Ethan. Hope you're having a great day. We are not starting this vlog outside, or we are starting it outside, not in my car today. Gonna be mixing it up, But third day of my little weekday trip out in Western Mass, MGM Springfield. You guys saw the first 2 days. We're off to a pretty good start. Hoping to close things out. Gonna play for a couple hours, 1-2 MGM Springfield, and close up this good trip. Right now, I hit my goal so far of making 1,000 in this 3-day trip. So hopefully we can run it up, kind of free rolling, I guess, after my goal. See how far we can run things up during the day, and we'll see what the hands bring. We hop into a fairly active table, and we got some pretty big stacks, so love that at the 1-2 MGM here. So first hand that we play, we have ace 3 of hearts in middle position with 500 in our stack. Player to our right, he's pretty short, he limps. I raise it up to $15, and we get 5 callers around, so not really ideal, but let's go 6 ways to a flop for fun. Like I said, it's a pretty action table. Flop comes 10-5-5. 2 diamonds and a heart out there. The player to my right, he donk leads for $23, super small into a pot that has ballooned up to 90-ish. So only has about 125 behind, and I decide to raise it up to $75. Like I said, I love raising donk leads because I think it's weak a lot of the time, and they're just protector bets. And on such a dry board, I'm definitely not too worried when we're multi-way in this spot. And folds all the way back to him, and he quickly folds a 10 face up. And as my first hand of the session here, I'm going to show my ace 3 of hearts as a bluff and kind of get things going. Next hand here, I have pocket sixes in middle position with about 600 in my stack. There's one limp to me. I decide to limp here in this spot with a small pocket pair looking to set mine. The cutoff raises the $10. I had full intention of calling the $10 until the button decided to 3-bet to $30. Folds all the way back to me, and he has about $300 in his stack total, and the cutoff is a pretty big stack that covers me. So figured that if I can call, I can get the right price for the cutoff to call. So that's exactly what I do, figuring I could get the right price and get paid a decent amount, I guess, if I do hit a 6. So I call and the cutoff calls. Let's go 3 ways to the flop of 10-7-6. Yep, we get there. We hit our bottom set on this flop. It's pretty wet and connected too, with a lot of draws in place. So action checks back to the button. He decides to c-bet to $50, and it's normal sizing. I think I can really, I guess, raise and fast play this, but decided just to flatten this spot, trying to get the cutoff there because he's really the big stack and main person I wanted in there. But he ends up folding, unfortunately, and he folds ace deuce exposed, ace of clubs and the deuce of diamonds. So 2 pretty irrelevant cards there. Turn is the 4 of clubs. So board just got a whole lot more wet. It doesn't really hit his range at all though. And I am first to act out of position here in this spot, so I check, assuming that he'll fire a lot of the time and just continue barreling. He bets $110, giving him about 200-ish behind, give or take, somewhere around there. It was, from my calculations, around 175 to 225. So I think for a little bit, and it's definitely now a spot to raise for value, and I think I just have to get it all in. So that's exactly what I do. I decide to jam. He tanks for a few minutes and ends up thinking, he calls out my hand actually. He says it's either a bluff or pocket sixes. So not sure why he couldn't put me on 7s or 10s. I guess I was playing a little too aggressive to just limp 10s. But anyways, he ends up making the right fold. And I think he probably had like queens or something like that, where I might have been able to get away with flatting and firing on the river here. But regardless, had to definitely jam in that spot, hoping he'd call with an overpair. But he made a good laydown. Next hand, we have kings under the gun with about 800 in my stack, so we're chipping up here. I open things up to $15. Player to my left calls, and a loose hijack calls as well. So let's go 3 ways to a flop out of position. Flop comes ace, jack, 5, 2 diamonds out there. Ace high board, nothing I can do. I really hate this, and I'm first to act, so just gonna check and just get to showdown here on the river, just because the ace is out there. So I check. Player to my left bets $25. The hijack calls, and interesting spot here where I think I'm priced in with the backdoor nut flush draw here with the king of diamonds. I could go running diamonds, but also I could go for backdoor straight draws as well. I don't know. It's a weird spot, so regardless, I decided to peel one, $25, hopefully pick up some more equity on the turn, which comes probably one of the better cards I was kind of looking for, I guess. It's the 9 of diamonds. So 3 ways to the turn, 9 of diamonds, and now I have the nut flush draw, and I check. Player to my left bets $25 again, and interesting because the hijack then calls, and I am absolutely so priced in. The issue with this spot is that both of these players are actually pretty short. Player to my left has about $100, and the hijack has $150. I think about pushing and just like realizing all my equity. That's not what realize all my equity means, but I thought about pushing as a bluff, and I figured that is what a stupid fish would do, and that's what I would have done in the past. But I decided to be smart and just flat, given my great odds here. So we flat the 25, and we're still going through to a river, which is the King of Hearts. So very interesting, where we don't get there with our diamonds, but we do river a set. I, once again, out of position. I'm going to have to check here because I don't think I can get worse to call besides like a random 2 pair or something like that. Once again, the player on my left bets $25. The hijack ends up folding. I think about raising here because he does have 100 behind total, but I didn't really see a point because I don't think I get any worse hands to fold regardless, or I mean to call regardless. So I just flat want to see what he's betting $25 with the whole way down, and he shows ace 10. So we get there with our set of kings, and we take it down, given great prices to just kind of call.
Here. Raised it.
This next hand I wanted to include because of the beginning. Shout out to the magnificent MGM dealer that everyone can recognize her voice. But I have pocket kings here in this spot, and it's weird. I didn't capture the cards for some reason. You're gonna believe me because there's 3 limps to me. I raised it at 20, and they all fold. Very easy and simple thing, but I had kings. I thought I recorded the video, but I didn't. But we're gonna leave it in here regardless because I raised it.
6.5 feet tall. We're light eyes.
I did see you.
Next hand in this spot in early position with pocket 10s gets pretty interesting, so let's get into it. I have 900 in my stack, and the undergun, who's a fairly good reg at my table, limps. I decide to raise things up to $15, and it folds all the way back to him, and he makes the call. So let's go heads up to the flop of 7-7 deuce rainbow. Extremely dry board, and I'm feeling really good with my 10s here. So he checks to me. I bet $25, and he makes the call. So I think I'm good here 9 times out of 10. I was hoping to see a good turn card, which comes. It's probably the most perfect turn card I could ask for. It's another deuce. So double paired board. He checks to me, and I'm looking to fire big in the spot for value. I want to get any of his pocket pairs to call. I think like even pocket 4s or small pocket pairs like that would feel good in this spot. So I barrel $75, looking like I have ace high, trying to push him off, and he thinks for a little bit and calls. He says something that like, I'm not afraid of a double paired board, which is exactly what I'm trying to look like, a bluff. The river's an ace. Not the best card because he unfortunately would get there with all of his ace high cards out there. He checks. I immediately check it back. He shows pocket kings for such a strong hand, and it's really interesting because I get beat here and he outplayed me. But main reason that he limped pocket kings was that we talked later. He saw that I put my phone on the table when I saw my cards, so he knew that I had a strong hand. I was gonna raise pre, so that's an interesting spot to definitely look at. And when it comes to recording hands, I'm gonna be a lot more cautious and not show any tells before I act. So that was an interesting one because he played it really well against me, knowing that I had a good hand, and that was probably just the perfect board for both of our hands. Next hand, I have ace-queen offsuit in the cutoff with about 800 in my stack. There's 2 limps to me. I decided to raise things up to $15, and we're still on this same very active table because we get 5 callers around. So we're in the cutoff. We're not in position because the button also called as well. But let's go 6 ways to a flop with ace queen offsuit of queen 10 7, 2 hearts out there. Action checks all the way to me with top. Gonna have to fire for value. I bet fairly bigger. Trying to charge the max for all draws out there because there are a ton on this board. I bet $75, and unfortunately everyone folds, but we take it down. We take down a fairly easy $75 with all those callers. The last thing of this session I'll talk about, it's pretty interesting, and it gets pretty big. So pretty last hand to define the whole session today. We have a 10-8 suited in the small blind with 1,000 in my stack. And when the action limps to me, there's about 4 limpers to me. I decide to just limp here, not trying to bloat up the pot. I don't think I can ever take down the dead money in the middle with a big raise. And I'm out of position, so let's just see a good flop. So I decide to limp as well, and the big blind checks. So let's go 6 ways to a flop of 10, 7, 4, 2 spades. Flopping top pair with the spade draw. Got a ton of equity, and I'm loving the spot. I'm first to act. Obviously, I checked in here. The early position player bets $75. A late position player, who in my notes say he's pretty bad, because he is pretty bad, he calls as well, and action's onto me. I have a big stack, and I am trying to play a big pot out of position here, even though I have a ton of equity. That's the main reason. Ton of equity with top pair and the flush draw, so I decided to raise things up to $85. Early position, who let out the $20 on the flop, he folds, and the late position, who's a bad player, he calls. So not sure what his range could be when he calls this $85, but looking for a good turn card because I don't think I could be good here too much, especially in the limped pot, but got a ton of equity. So we go heads up to a turn, which is a 6 offsuit. So not the worst card in the world for me. It does bring in a gutter ball to go along with my top pair and the flush draw. So it definitely gives me additional equity if I am behind this spot. And he has about $220 left in the stack. It's a weird sizing, and I'm first to act here in the small blind. So trying to find a sizing to get value from worse, and also also just to realize all of my equity here in the spots. So I couldn't think of a sizing where he would call and play like a normal river card, I guess. So if I bet something like 110, 150 or something like that in this pot, it's just going to be so weird when it doesn't even matter what the river is, to be honest, because it's going to be like $50 left, and I have maybe top pair or I have a pair of 10s, and I'd have to call it off regardless. So for that reasoning, I decided to just jam here, 220 effective, because, well, I couldn't find a good sizing given the size of the pot right now. So I decided to jam, and he looks at his cards and calls. And the moment he calls, I know that there's no way that I can be ahead right now, or at least there's the majority of the time I'm definitely behind. But I'm drawing. I have a ton of equity, so he calls. Let's go heads up to a river and showdown here. River is a king of diamonds. Not the card I wanted to see. I don't think I'm good here a lot of the time, but I'll show regardless because I have to. I show my 10-8 suited. He shows 7-4 offsuit for bottom 2 pair, and he takes it down. So we lose that one. There's a lot of different things that I think I could have done better here. One is to raise pre. I think 10-8 suited in the small blind is definitely okay to raise pre with. It's something that I can mix in a lot of the time. But besides that, that obviously gets the 7-4 offsuit out of the way, I think. But that's crazy that he played 7-4 off and got there with 2 pair and got the full double up against me, which is really unfortunate. I don't know. I just got really tilted after this and ended the session. But I looked at my chart and looked at the equity splits on the turn there, and it's been against his exact holding 7-4. It's a 50-50 exact split in terms of equity. I have all the outs in the world, any 9, any 8, any 10, any spade, and any 6. So I have a ton of outs, and unfortunately just lost the 50-50 draw, but he held his 7-4 offsuit 2 pair, which is absolutely ridiculous, but it is what it is. That's totally okay. I'm honestly okay with the way I played it, besides raising pre. That's probably my main issue with this hand. So there goes my session, just cashed out. I only played for about 3.5 hours, and I was on a really good 1-2 table, but I was in for 500, out for 620, and I don't know, man. It's just, it was on a really good table, and I should have played more, but I'm just not feeling it. Super hungry, and mainly just pretty annoyed with my 10-8 suited hand. I don't think I played it amazing, but man, I should have raised pre, so 7-4 off isn't in there, but that was like the best flop I could ask for with 10-8 suited, one of the better flops I could ask for, so just annoyed. I was building up into having a monster session, and one little stupid moment like that, which I don't even think is that stupid, to be honest. I was looking at the equity on the turn. It was a 50-50 flip. So obviously not great to put it in at 50% equity, putting all my chips in there. But, I mean, had a ton of equity, had a ton of outs. Had a gutter ball, top pair, flush draw. Any 8, any 6 gives me better 2 pair. Any 10, obviously, but just didn't hit any of my outs, and unfortunately, I did not have a monster session. So made like $100 in 3+ hours. It's all right. The overall good 3-day trip though, and hopefully you guys liked these videos along the way. Hopefully I can pump these out as fast as I possibly can, because Encore is opening up soon, and once that happens on Sunday, it's going to be all Encore from there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Gonna drive home now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.